dehydrated, crystal white powder, unlimited shelf life.
Most people know that if you drink seawater, you will die. And I don't think it was the water that killed people who drink seawater.
In fact, the way they used to commit suicide in Japan, they would take a handful of salt and just down it, and they'd be dead within 10 minutes. Salt, whether it's sea salt, table salt, Himalayan sea salt, it doesn't matter what kind of salt it is, it's a poison to the body. That's why you get thirsty when you eat salty things, because you're consuming something that's a poison to the body says, wow, I have to dilute this. And so it's pulling water out of its tissues to dilute the thing you just took in.
This way the body evinces its need for water to hold that salt in suspension safely away from tissues and cells. Body cannot use salt. It was put on things that people wanted to preserve. Eventually, we got what we call the salt addiction, any drug we can become addicted to.
Brain scans show sodium triggers dopamine, which can mean the more salt you eat, the more you want. Sodium also boosts insulin production, which can lead to weight gain.
When you cut the salt, you're going to lose pounds, trust me.
It allows people to hold on to excess fluid so they get a lot of bloating and swelling, the edema, the non-healing.
When the salt retains fluid, it can look really floppy.
Salt retains fluid, like we all know, so the more salt in your system, the higher your blood volume. More blood means your heart works harder to pump it, and that increases pressure.
Too much salt, we're seeing a link to raised blood pressure, strokes, cardiovascular disease, kidney problems.
A high salt diet increases your risk of stomach cancer and osteoporosis, and the single biggest source of that is factory-made bread.
Bread, processed meats and cheese are the three major contributors to salt.
It's also hidden in foods that may not even taste salty, like cereal and condiments. And it's these hidden sources that make reducing salt.
The poultry industry injects the carcasses with salt water to artificially inflate the weight. Salt does all sorts of bad things to our arteries, besides just raising blood pressure, contributing to the deaths of about 150,000 Americans every year.
Salt is the most widely ignored and also the most easily preventable cause of health problems.
The average American is getting thousands of milligrams of sodium per day, yet we need only about 220 milligrams. A teaspoon of salt contains 2,300 milligrams, and some of our most popular foods are loaded with sodium. So you really need to read labels carefully. Better yet, don't buy food with labels.
The idea that you have to add a lot of this processed food to the diet in order to meet some purported need, I think, is a mistake. And charging 10 times as much per pound and getting things that have other minerals mixed in and pretending that that makes it health food, again, from my viewpoint, is nonsense.
Whether you have Himalayan salt, Celtic salt, sea salt, or salt harvested from the moon, salt is salt. You can't turn, heroin into a health food by putting some minerals into it.
Salt doesn't actually improve the flavor of food. What it ends up doing is just irritating and enervating your taste buds and damaging them, and as a result makes them more sensitive to the foods that you're eating.
And so what happens is instead of actually going to the trouble to get fresh foods ripe and processed properly, we just pick any old thing and throw salt on it.
Salt deadens the taste buds. It decreases the overall sensation in food, and I think that you can enjoy the natural salt-like flavor of foods better if you're not eating a diet high in salt. On a diet with not much added sodium from salt, your taste buds get stronger.
If you go without them for just a little while, you actually stop wanting them. How does that happen? We can literally train our taste buds. Each one contains about 100 receptor cells, which only lives about 2 weeks and then is replaced.
If you want something salty and you'd kill for something salty, you're not eating enough vegetables.
In order to make good foods taste good without adding salt, well, you have to start with foods that taste good. And you have to minimize the processing so that you retain the natural flavors.